Hello, friends, and welcome to Wake Nation 21, the first fan-fueled YouTube channel dedicated to everything Wake Forest athletics. My name is Josh Chilton, and I am here with my brother and co-host, Shane Chilton. Shane, it was a long, hard slog of a day, but in between the weather delays, we got to enjoy some exciting football on both offense and defense this week as our Wake Forest Deacons crushed the Western Carolina Catamounts by a final score of 42-10. Brother, first, how you doing? And second, how much more hopeful do you feel about this season after watching us stay locked in for over 7 hours to achieve such a strong looking outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I'm encouraged. The weather handed out a lot of pain for football fans this weekend. So it was a long slog, and you could see it in the crowd. It's probably like, 5 people out there. But no, it was more than that. But yeah, it was a little bit tough. The weather gave some challenges, but the play on the field was certainly encouraging. I think compared to the first week, we certainly got to see some touchdown action from the Deacons, which was fun. Damon Claiborne, looked like, the greatest running back of all time, which was fun to watch. He might be. We'll see. But, yeah, it was an interesting 7 to 8 hours.
Yes, it was. And I would like to acknowledge, we know we're recording this right now during the Jake Dickert show. In the future, we're going to try not to coincide with that. But tonight, this was the time that we could make work. We hope most of you will tune in to the Jake Dickert show and then catch us on the replay if you're not catching us live. But without that, we're going to go back to the first slide because I forgot to start with the first slide. But let's just open this thing up and start the discussion. We're going to do a week 2 recap, and we're going to preview the NC State, the Big Four showdown. So the Deacons dominated Western Carolina, and in 2 days, 2 nights from now, 48 hours and 30 minutes from now, we're going to have a showdown against 2 undefeated teams, 2-0, Wake Forest versus NC State at a legacy stadium. Sports Center is going to be on the campus, and we'll see how many fans we can get. And students, they were talking about canceling classes so the 5,000 students at Wake Forest could come out and rep the Deacs on national television. So we're really excited for the short week in this game that's coming up here. And so let's talk about taking care of business. Shane, do you want to talk about just, how we took care of business against Western Carolina, what you saw from the offense, what you saw from the defense, and then I'll make a few comments as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we did what we were supposed to in this game. Came out, looked strong. It was, a little bit tough for the viewer because of the weather delays, but the action that we did get to see on the field and when we weren't waiting for the weather to move through was pretty fun to watch. I think, Robbie had some good passes, but, Damon was the star of the show, obviously. Some of the cuts he was making, some of the moves he was making. I know it's Western Carolina, but, I still think that, they were excellent. They would have been excellent moves against any defense. So he certainly showed his skill set. I think that, when we look at 540 total yards of offense, that's pretty heavy stuff. That's great. 26 points per game, 445 yards per game. I mean, that was great. So it was like heavy offense for Wake Forest, not much offense for Western Carolina. They were a little bit hindered with, I think their starting quarterback was out. So they actually had this guy from Simpsonville, South Carolina, which is where I live, funny enough. He had a tough day to say the least. Um, our defense looked great. They were pounding them. They were pounding that guy. I saw a lot of good stuff from the defensive line. I thought they were getting great penetration and really getting to the quarterback well. Finally got to see Patterson lay the wood a bit, which was fun to see. We have such a deep linebacker core. That was one thing that stood out. We have like 4 studly linebackers. Between Hazel and Aiden Hall and Quincy and
Frank,
Cusano. Yeah,
hey,
Frank the Tank. Let's go.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, some years you're lucky to have one really good linebacker, so to have 4 that can kind of rotate in, that's definitely helpful. And the defensive line is really, they shine through in this game. So
Yeah, constant disruption. First with the offense, I want to shout out Deacons illustrated writer Connor O'Neill. You can find him on X at Connor O'Neill with 2 L's underscore D1. But he had a great tweet or X or whatever you want to call it. He said, Wake versus Kennesaw State, we had 1 touchdown drive that took 7 minutes and 2 seconds. And against Western Carolina, we had 6 touchdown. You can't even call them drives because they were 1 or 2 play explosions. And those 6 touchdown drives took a total of 3 minutes and 44 seconds. So we scored 6 touchdowns in a total of 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Just absolutely incredible. I was very excited that Coach Ezell was taking deep shots early in the game. Now, my boy Jeremiah Melvin, he dropped one early, but I love that we just opened it up and said, you know what? Let's let Robbie cook. His deep ball is accurate. Now, some of the intermediary throws we're going to talk about later, but I was just really excited about the opening up of the offense and taking those deep shots to soften the defense up. Damon Claiborne's first run was just that had nothing to do with blocking. It was just one of those reminiscent of Kenneth Walker when he was at Wake Forest type plays where he just decides when he gets the ball, oh, I'm just going to go around the entire defense to the sideline and be faster than everybody and score. Now, the offensive line did help a little more on some of the other runs, but just great to have Damon back. The defense, fewest points allowed in back-to-back games since 2017. I know that's against Kennesaw State and Western Carolina. Kennesaw State did not look very good against Indiana, but we will take it. The defense, like you said, it looks very deep. And even the 238 yards we gave up, a lot of that was in garbage time in the fourth quarter where we were playing the twos. In the first half, I can't remember what the exact stat was, but they had like negative yards rushing. And so the defense just getting to the quarterback, even when we weren't getting the sacks, we were disrupting throws. It felt like constantly my boy, Jaden Loving, who I want on the field more and more snaps, that you see to the right of us, got himself a sack for the second straight game. And that's going to lead us into our stock up players for week 2. And Chris Barnes has to be, for me, we know Demond is going to demand. But Chris Barnes coming into the season, you and I both acknowledged, like, we didn't really talk about him much in the preseason. It was mentioned he's a speedster. He's not very big. But that one catch he made on the outside where Robbie just kind of threw it up. I mean, he made a play that you would see like a Mike Evans or a Teteroa McMillan make, where he just bodied the outside corner to get inside and make that catch. I was surprised because you think of a guy who's 5'7", 160, 170 pounds, like that's a slot receiver. He played 22 snaps on the outside. And so he had 6 catches for 149 yards. He's a weapon in the special teams. I know the depth chart just came out, and Carlos Hernandez is still listed as the or with Chris Barnes. And all respect to Los, like he's a good player, but Chris Barnes needs to be elevated to just like a key aspect of our offense. Through 2 weeks, he has a 92.5 PFF grade, which is off the charts. It's got to be one of the top PFF grades in the nation. Demand, healthy. What more can we say? 10 carries, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns. I am not a mathematician, but I think that is 19.3 yards per carry. Shane, do you want to talk about Robbie Ashford's dual threat ability and the defense, just more specifically about the defense?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, Robbie obviously's got great legs and is able to run. He's also got a good arm. I think that, I wasn't crazy about some of the progressions he made. He wasn't fooling anybody with some of his look-offs, which definitely got to work on that. But he can make the passes. So I feel like that is more of a skill set that you can't teach, is like making the passes. So I'm glad he's able to do that. I think you can kind of teach looking off in those progressions, but he's obviously done a lot of good work on his feet. He had the first touchdown there. He had the only touchdown in the first game against Kennesaw State. So he's shown us, he's a dual threat quarterback. He's shown skill with his arm. So I'd like to just see him continue to progress and develop that skill and continue to kind of look good there. As far as, the defense is concerned, stock up. We held Western Carolina to 238 total yards, which is, actually kind of surprising. I think a lot of that was they gained those yards when our secondary defense was in the second half.
Garbage time yards.
Because they couldn't get anything in the first half. I mean, it was negative yards. So, we only gave up 34 rushing yards, so completely shut down their rushing game. The rushing game wasn't that impressive, but the fact that we held them to that was is a testament to our team.
And Patrick Boyd Jr. had come off a game, albeit against, Gardner Webb, where he had rushed for 150 yards or whatever. So It was impressive that we dominated the line of scrimmage that severely.
Yeah. Aiden Hall, that's my boy. Like I was, he was killing it out there. And it's a bit of a surprise for me because, Quincy, Hayes, and Frank Cusano, Frank the Tank, kind of those 3 guys were more top of mind in the first game. But Aiden Hall is really showing his skill set, and he was making some great reads, getting the hole, making some great tackles. So he had 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss.
He was popping out there. He was popping. You could see it.
Looking good. The pass rush. What can I say? Langston Hardy, enough said, man. He was killing it out there. Just absolutely having his way with the offensive lineman, getting through every way he wanted to. So that was impressive to see. Josh's boy, Jaden Loving, with 1 sack for the second straight game. So
On
Josh.
pace for 12 sacks, man, a defensive tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. So the man crush continues, and it's a justified man crush. And 14 tackles for loss as a team. So pretty much just smacked them right in the face. Poor Western Carolina. They had to go back to Colowee and mend their wounds. So.
Yeah, and they looked overmatched, and they didn't look like the team that they were ranked preseason. I know they had some injuries piling up. They're without their best receiver. Their second best receiver goes down. They're without Teron Deacons, who was supposed to be an All-American at the FCS level quarterback. So this is an undermanned FCS team. So we need to keep that in context as optimistic as I am. It's just important to remember that. Stock down, the weather, the too long delays. It just made, I'm trying to decide in my mind, is this an advantage for us going into a short week? Because it was almost like we got to play a little scrimmage time, then we got to go rest, then we got to come back out for a few hours, then we rest again. Or does just, I know all that we had originally, Wake Nation 21, as a YouTube channel, we were going to go live after the game so people could come right after and have post game reactions. But even us, we were like, I'm exhausted from waiting this thing out. So there's kind of two ways to look at the weather delays and whether that is an advantage maybe from the perspective of us not having to endure what NC State just had to endure, which was a long, grueling game against Virginia. Robbie Ashford's intermediate throwing accuracy, the interception was just a bad read, but there were a couple other throws in the intermediary range. And by that, I mean 15, 25 yards where he sailed a few balls and he just wasn't accurate. I don't know if this is a positive or negative. Like I talked about the Connor O'Neill tweet, we didn't get much practice sustaining drives because it felt like we just handed it off to Damon and he's just like off for like a 70-yard touchdown, or we're throwing to Burkhalter and he's catching a 45-yard touchdown. There wasn't a lot of chances for the offensive coordinator, the quarterback, to have to go through the mechanics and the thought process of a lot of third and mediums, a lot of second and longs, like doing the things that you get to practice in game situations with. Defensive play calling on their only scoring drive against our first team defense, we were getting there with 4 consistently. Like there was no need to bring that 5th guy. But for some reason, just on that drive, like we just couldn't help but we were like, oh, we're just going to bring that extra guy. And I was getting really frustrated because their coach was smart and he was throwing it right underneath our blitz, like for these little screens and dump offs. And they were gashing us for yards on that single drive. Now we tightened up and figured it out once they got close and they had to kick a field goal. But when you're in the quarterback's lap, when you're bringing 4 guys and you're able to rotate as much as we do on the defensive line to keep them fresh, I do not see any reason why you need to bring a 5th guy. Just let your guys in the backfield do their jobs because you're getting pressure with 4. So I didn't love that, and that's something to watch for against State. And then the turnovers, one was a bad snap to Robbie, the 2 fumbles lost and the interception. Shane, do you have any thoughts in terms of stock down from the Western Carolina game?
Yeah, I mean, with the sustained drives, like I'll take it. If we score on the first play of every offensive drive for the rest of the season, I'll be a very happy guy. I mean, I can see the point of like, you want to see them maybe face some adversity. We had plenty of that in the first game against Kennesaw State. We couldn't get the ball, 1 yard down the field. So I wouldn't worry too much about, us,
I had to reach for some stock down, Shane. I had to reach here.
Yeah, no. I mean, I understand that, and I appreciate that. But I think, and see, I almost had to. I brought it into the stock up, and that shows you how top of mind it is for me. But this, I got to see a little bit more out of Robbie, and I'm not completely down on him. It may sound like I'm, being hyper negative, and if it does sound that way, I apologize. But there are certain things you can see with read progressions and quarterbacks, and there's certain ways, I love him out of the pocket. I love him moving and throwing. I mean, he is excellent in that way. And you know what? That's a good thing because he's dangerous with his feet in the running game. So there's kind of a little bit of an element there of like, okay, I'm out of the pocket. Maybe I'll just take it upfield. That's beautiful. But, defenses can put together schemes that kind of address that. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's the highlight, but, we'll see. NC State's going to be a better test.
Yeah, and I think Robbie, it's fair to say, is still a work in progress. And coming into this week's game against the Puppy Pack, we're going to find out how far along in that work in progress he is. Before we get into some details about our matchup with the Puppy Pack, and I'm going to keep calling them the Puppy Pack, and if they don't like it, they can kiss my grits. But the Puppy Pack is who we're playing. I want to talk about some things that I liked about what Coach Dickert said in yesterday's press conference. Some of the things I liked, his sense of urgency. Coach Dickert did not seem satisfied at all with how well we played against Western Carolina. There was no celebration. There was just like, yeah, we did a good job, but we still got a lot of things to clean up. If we're going to, quote unquote, play championship football, that's where Coach Dickert is setting the bar for this team. And I love when a coach is not afraid to set a high bar for his team. I also like that he said, we spent a lot of time this summer planning for state. And I think that is a smart coaching decision, knowing the schedule beforehand. He knew coming into the season, after week 2, we're only going to have a couple days to get prepared for state. So we need to do a little bit of our homework early so that we're going to be more ready when the time comes. And he talked about how much, CJ Bailey had become a true quarterback this year. And he talked about, that balance of getting to the pocket, getting to the quarterback versus keeping the quarterback in the pocket. And just the fact that he has the awareness that CJ Bailey, much like Robbie Ashford, is a mobile quarterback. And there is a balance to be struck between rushing to get to him and we got to stay in our lanes, because if he breaks the pocket, it doesn't matter how well we get there if he's rushing up the field. So I love that. NC State is 2-0. They beat ECU in a close game where ECU kind of came back towards the end. They beat them 24-17. And they beat Virginia in a game that Virginia probably should have won. Their quarterback threw an interception at the end. Do you feel like, Shane, we are being disrespected by being 7-point underdogs at home against State? Or do you feel like that's fair given who they've played, who they've beaten, and who we've played and who we've beaten, and the preseason rankings?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of disrespect. I mean, we're going to have the atmosphere. It's going to be a weekday game. It's going to be a night game. Weather permitting, we'll fill the stadium. I think we definitely will. Students love week time games just because it kind of breaks up the week, and they're not as much of they're not doing as much of this out in the tailgate because it's during the week and they usually have tests and stuff like that. So it's usually a really good environment, a very energetic environment. It'll be our first game under the lights, which is a lot of fun, So I think we'll have a great atmosphere, and that way it is disrespectful. In another way, it's, maybe fair. I mean, NC State has played two better opponents than we have in their first two games. You can say what you want about ECU, but it's historically a pretty good program. They fought pretty tough battles against both teams. Like you said, Virginia probably should have won that game, but, it came down to the end and an interception. CJ Bailey has shown that, he's got some skill. Hollywood Smothers has also shown he's got some skill.
We're going to talk about
Hollywood that. For the most interesting name in all of, NCAA sports right now. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that it could be a touchdown game, but I don't know if it'll be a touchdown game for NC State.
Yeah, I think 7 points is a little rich for me. I could see if we were +3, NC State favored by 3 points. But with us having the home field advantage, so whether it's fair or not, let me just say this. Whether it's fair or not, I like that we're underdogs because that's bulletin board material. If I'm a coach, I'm putting that up there on the bulletin, on the whiteboard, whatever they use. And I'm saying, this is what people think of us so far. Let's go show them. So I like the underdog aspect of it. What it says about our teams, we don't know until we get out there on the field. We've played one game where it was like, but our defense looked good that game. Our defense, I think, is almost a known quantity at this point. Our offense has played one bad game and one ridiculously great game with our best player back. So we'll see what happens in terms of that. But the Wolfpack, to me, is a tale of two sides, much more than we are. Like, the Pack offense is good. It's really good. They're averaging 29.5 points a game. They're averaging 420, almost 420 yards per game. They have good balance, 258 passing yards per game, 160 rushing yards per game. But their defense is kind of, like their defense is giving up 24 points a game. They're giving up 463 yards per game. Like, let's contrast that to Wake's defense. So Wake's defense is giving up 272.5 yards per game, and we're giving up 9.5 points per game, albeit against way worse opponents. Like, I'll give us that. But even on the offensive side, we average 26 points a game, and we're averaging more yards per game. We're averaging 445 yards per game. So it feels like we have a little more balance theoretically between the potency of our offense, which is still, compared to our defense, the weaker side of the ball. But I feel like what I've seen from the Pack defense so far is they are not very good. Like, they did not impress me in either game this season. And I think we're going to learn a lot about our offense to go up against a lesser ACC defense to see what we're really about here. So do you have any thoughts about that, or you want to go on to the next one?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said. I mean, I think that's good analysis. Yeah, I as far as our offense is concerned, even though it's behind our defense, we have Damon Claiborne. Like, dude is a stud. He's probably the best running back in the ACC. He's definitely, I think he's a top 10 in the NCAA. So, or top 5. So, and with Chris Barnes, shining through as our second best player on offense. No rub to Robbie, but yes, Barnes is our second best player. I think that the offense, it's coming through. There's more there than people are talking about, I think.
And once we get to the keys of the game, I think we'll kind of show and break down what can be the separator here, because we're kind of setting the table, and we'll continue to set the table by talking about the players to watch for NC State. So obviously CJ Bailey, true sophomore, 6'6", 210 pounds. I mean, that's quite a frame. That's Trevor Lawrence's frame. That's the type of skill set he's working with, and he has matured a lot. I watched him last year, and he played pretty well last year. Like as a freshman, he had his struggles, but he played pretty well. But watching him against Virginia this weekend, I was very impressed. And if I put him neck and neck with Robbie Ashford as just who's better right now, I'm going CJ Bailey. Now, the opposite is true with Hollywood Smothers. Smothers had a great game against Virginia. He had 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. And in his first game, he only had like 70 some yards, but he had 30 receiving yards and a touchdown. So he's had, averaging over 100 yards a game from scrimmage each game. He's about the same size as Demond, but if CJ gets the edge in terms of quarterback, you have to give Demond the edge in terms of running back. As good as Hollywood Smothers may be, he is not Demond Claiborne. And then on defense, their defense, it's hard to find a player who stood out. They have exactly one sack this whole season, Shane. They have one sack. And the man who's gotten the sack is also the man who leads them in tackles, and that's senior Caden Fordham. He's got 20 tackles on the season. So 2 games, 20 tackles. He's averaging 10 tackles a game. That's really solid. He's athletic, he's tough, and he's relentless getting to the ball. But outside of him, I don't see a defensive line that I normally see for NC State. I don't see defensive backs that I normally would see on an NC State team. I see a defense that really struggles to tackle, really struggles to cover, and doesn't get to the quarterback. So, but these are the 3 players I would be watching closest. Do you have any comments on any of these 3 guys? Anything you just want to say about them, or any other players you think are noteworthy on NC State?
Yeah, I think Bailey. I think Robbie is a better runner. I think Bailey's more lanky and a little bit slower than Robbie. So I actually give Robbie the
running edge,
the lead and the running edge. Yeah, the lead in that. I think Bailey might be a better passer. I did see kind of him working through those progressions, and he looked pretty good in the passing game, but he used his legs a lot. So I don't know whether that is one of those things where he just wants to run, or all of the receivers are covered. That's kind of tough in college football. It's less. You get more quarterbacks who kind of just run because they want to instead of running when they should. And finding the open man. I was a little more because I watched more of the Virginia game. I didn't watch as much of the ECU game, but Smothers looked freaking crazy good in the Virginia game. But I mean, he's still not as good as Demond. But he is used much more in their passing game, from what I can see, and we don't use Demond much in our passing game. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't, because Demond usually just looks at the line of scrimmage and just goes around everybody because he's faster. So, and yeah, State's defense is booty. I'll go ahead and say it. Y'all can say whatever. It's like a clickbait, but I don't think their defense is very good. They didn't they didn't look very good from what I saw against Virginia. But we'll see.
They haven't all year. And one other thing of note, their top receiver so far this year is a name you guys might be familiar with. It's none other than former Wake Forest Demon Deacon Wesley Grimes. So Wesley Grimes has been their best receiver so far this season. So a familiar face catching
Judas.
most of the passes for them. So we got a little revenge game. Hope Devon Patterson, Nick Anderson, Rashawn Tongue are going to be on the hunt for Wesley Grimes, just letting him know he made a mistake by leaving Wake Nation. So we've got that to watch. All right, we're going to get into our keys to winning and our final predictions. So I put strength versus strength, and I did this last week, and I'm going to do it again this week. The strength of this Wake Forest team up to this point is our defense. The strength of NC State by far is their offense. So who is going to win that battle? Can we hold NC State? I said under 24 points. Now, Shane thinks we can hold them to 10 points less than that. But can we contain the CJ Bailey, Hollywood Smothers, Wesley Grimes led NC State offense? And I'm betting that we can as a defense. Our defense has impressed me so much this year. But one thing that I'm worried about is our offensive line winning the line of scrimmage. I went and looked at all the PFF grades for all of our offensive linemen. And I know PFF, I've said this many times, isn't the end all be all, but it is a good reference point. And I will tell you that PFF has every one of our offensive linemen as better pass blockers so far this year than run blockers, like across the board as run blockers. And I've seen it. We've been pretty inconsistent. Have we opened a few holes that Damon just burst through and because he's himself, he's just gone on? Yes, we have done that. But we have also, if you go back and watch the tape, had many plays where our linemen could not hold their blocks. I was very impressed with the pass blocking against Western. I was still feeling like there was a lot to be desired in terms of pushing the line of scrimmage as run blockers. So we must win that. Shane, will you talk about this CJ Bailey versus Robbie Ashford and why that might be the determining factor to who wins this game?
Yeah, I think this is the key. Whoever steps up at the quarterback position in this game will win the ball game, because I feel like they're both still kind of untested and really need to step in to turn their team into a winning ACC team this year. You know, so we've got pretty close comps here. I mean, you know, passing percentage, yardage, Bailey's got one more touchdown. You know, and Robbie has the edge in the rushing game in terms of yardage and carries. So it's pretty even. These quarterbacks are very similar. Like when I watch both Wake and State play, and when I watch Bailey and Ashford play specifically, sometimes it feels like, you know, it's almost the same type of quarterback. And another thing that's kind of interesting, you know, we talked about the power spread and how Wake's moving to a power spread this year. But the more college football I watch this season, the more I realize every freaking team in the entire college football runs the same damn offense. And it's a little bit boring, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not, I love football, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing this show. But, like, they're running the same type of plays. So maybe that has something to do with it. But, yeah, I think, you know, Bailey's taller, Ashford's faster. We'll see who comes out on top. I think Robbie will. He's just got to step into his confidence a little bit more.
Yeah, if Robbie steps up, we win this game going away. If Robbie outplays CJ Bailey, regardless of other factors in the game, I think we win. Damon Claiborne and Chris Barnes both have to surpass 100 scrimmage yards. Damon's got to get over 100 either through the ground. I would love to see him involved in more screens. Chris Barnes between return yards, receiving yards, rushing yards, they both got to surpass 100, or that's an utter failure. When you have two playmakers like that, you got to get them the ball. And I believe Coach Ezell knows that. He's been force feeding both of them the ball when the offense is out there. So they both have to surpass 100 scrimmage yards. And if those things happen, if we can hold them, in my opinion, under 24 points, if our offensive line shows up, if Robbie at least plays comparable to CJ, and if Damon and Chris both get theirs, then we're winning this game. My final score prediction: Wake Forest pulls it out 24-21. We struggle a little bit on offense with sustainability, but we're able to eventually put the points on the board with a good game from Robbie where he protects the ball and Damon gets his and Chris gets his, and we score just enough, those 24 points. And NC State's potent offense is held, which I think is a win, to 21 points. And if we can keep them at 21 points, I think we can score enough to win. What is your final score prediction, and why do you think it's going to go down 17-14, Shane?
I like your prediction better. I need to make an amendment. No, I just looked at the over-under, and it's at 51.5. So I think I was a little giddy with my prediction, but it mostly surrounded. But also, I will say this, the Kennesaw State Wake over-under was 45.5. So, crazier things have happened. But, I mean, mainly this prediction is just based on Wake Forest defense, I think, stepping up, locking down Bailey, smothering Smothers. That's what I'm hopeful for. They just showed so much strength against Western Carolina, so much skill. We're so deep at linebacker. Defensive line's killing it. We got Patterson and Webb, and Tongue in the secondary, killing it as well. So I really like our defense. That's why I gave the 14, NC State. And I am less confident in our scoring ability, but I still want the win. So that's why I gave us the, 17. We have Damon. So, when you have someone like Claiborne in the backfield, you can be confident no matter what. As long as the offensive line opens up holes for them, should be good to go there. Open up the passing game a little bit so we can open up some holes for him. Or Damon can just come to the line of scrimmage and just run around the moon, and no one will be able to catch him.
The way they were tackling last week, that might just be the case. But, I mean, I think overall both of us see this as a close game. And I see this as a key game that's going to help determine the trajectory of the rest of the season. If we start off 3-0, if we start off 1-0 in the conference, taking down a Big Four opponent, Coach Dicker talked about rivalries in his press conference and how much they mean and how much we need to lock in for this game. We have home field advantage. If you live in Winston-Salem, if I wasn't across the damn country, I would be driving there. And Shane, he's in another state as well. We can't get to the game. So we need you guys to show up there for us to support the Demon Deacons. And so upcoming for us, we're going to do a post-game reaction show on Saturday, September 13th. We're going to try to do it before the noon kickoff of all the games so you guys can watch all the games without us trying to, squeeze in during that time. But if not, we'll go live sometime Saturday to react to what happened on Thursday night. We don't want to go live after the game because it's going to be really late on the East Coast, and most people are going to be going to sleep or whatever. And so we got that. We've got Wake Forest basketball content coming up soon. I've been working on the slides. You will get the most in-depth look at the Wake Forest basketball team that you'll get anywhere at Wake Nation 21. Shane believes it because he knows Wake Nation 21 is named after
the data man for Wake Nation
21. Yeah. The reason it's Wake Nation 21 is because of a certain Mr. Tim Duncan and my fanaticism for Wake Forest basketball. So I'm going deep with the basketball coverage. And hey, if you're watching this and you haven't hit that like button and you haven't hit the subscribe button, you need to do us a favor. We're trying to hit as many Wake fans as possible. Please help us spread this out and get it to more people. 83% of our viewers so far this month have been new viewers. So if you're watching and you haven't hit that like button, it only takes a second. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and help us reach 100 subscribers so we can keep growing this community and keep getting people engaged and excited about Wake Forest athletics. Shane, do you have anything to say as we sign off with our last kind of words before the game on Thursday?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said a little bit earlier. Like, this is the tone-setting game for the season for Wake Forest football. I don't want that to be underemphasized. I think this is a huge game for us. And so definitely go out, go to the game, watch it on TV. And, I agree with you, David. Absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't see these earlier, so I'm going to put them up now.
Yeah, there we go.
This great. Is David's. I forgot to show the comments. This is David's prediction, and he believes we're better than State.
Yeah, I love that. That's right on the over/under. So that probably will end up being the score. And so, like David, all Wake sickos, Deep Town, like, come out, support, definitely come to the game because this Thursday is a huge game for us. If we win that game, it's going to set the tone for the rest of our ACC schedule and, could set us up for a potential run. So definitely support and thank y'all for watching and, go Deeks as always.
Yeah, it's time to get rowdy, Deke fans. It's time to go back to those old days where we were super rowdy
Wake Nation
in the stadium, man. You guys got to get out there and just be loud and make it hard for State to even execute. And if we do that and we believe in this team and we cheer them on, I think that's going to give us an edge. We appreciate you all watching. We will catch you Saturday after the game. And Dave, thank you too. I'm sorry it took us a minute to get to your comments, but next time we will make sure to get to them as they come in. And anyone who comments will always try to throw your comments up there. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you on the other side. Go Deeks.
Go Deeks.
Yeah.